Welcome to the Imbalance Podcast, a place where we navigate the struggles and perks of single mom life, the ebbs and flows of my work in the beauty industry, quality relationships, working through personal traumas, and finding our higher purpose. Sounds like a lot of struggling? Well, it is. So grab a drink and let's try and balance it together, because who said we have to navigate through this chaos alone? Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today on the Inbalance Podcast, a place where I forgot what we do here. A place where you will get your weekly dose of mom brain, unfinished task, work fatigue, and simply trying to balance the imbalanceable with me. The kids are in school. The snow days are kind of over with. It's supposed to get a little bit warmer. I still know that we're in the midst of winter. There's time for the temperature to drop again, but it's like, okay, we started a new week. It feels a little bit, because it was just weird, because it's like we had 2 snow days, we came back from the holidays, and you just get a little bit out of whack. So I feel a little bit more like balanced today, or this week, I will say so. Also, I may feel a little bit more balanced because I did get a service this morning through a brand called Movement and Science. It was called an assisted stretching appointment. And what that is basically is, instead of your typical massage therapist appointment, they focus on healing your muscles throughout, specifically called your fascial muscles. I think that's how it's pronounced. But it was about a 45-minute appointment where she kind of just helped me stretch, probably something similar that they may do in physical therapy. But I do always feel like I'm super tense. I'm a hairstylist, so and I've been doing it for 12 years, my entire adult life. So my body, my shoulders and my neck and my back can really get messed up sometimes. And so it was just a great service. I felt I described to her that I felt like I was floating by the end of the service. And she was like, yeah, that's how you should feel. You feel a little bit lighter. So I'm going to keep up with this and be consistent about coming in and getting those done and just see how my body feels. But right now, it's been about 2-3 hours. It feels great. But speaking of Movement of Science, that's actually who I'm going to have on my podcast today as a guest, Miss Kendra. She is the owner of Movement of Science. I met her because she came to me as a client. She had a great bubbly personality, but I also loved her creativeness and her drive and ambition to educate people with the intent to live a life without pain, or at least be able to accurately pinpoint where your pain may be coming from. Kendra is a licensed massage practitioner with certifications in facial stretch therapy with the Stretch to Win Institute. And when I say facial, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, so she's gonna be able to let me know on that in a few. But it's Fascial. So it's not like facial on your face. So it might be fascial. I don't know. She's gonna have to tell me that one. She also has worked with military families for over 10 years and also is a certified personal trainer and group fitness instructor. Her spot is in Alexandria and it's so cute. It smells great. You go in there, you feel good. It's very quaint. And I'm just so happy to have her on the show today discussing with you guys how she heals people. So I hope you guys enjoy our conversation.
I think one of the things that we do differently than a lot of places is that we want to make sure that we give the client the best practitioner and the best service, right? Like that doesn't giving the best service doesn't differentiate us from other places.
Right.
The service is catered to you. And it's catered to you that day as well. Because sometimes we've had to pivot. Like I'll come in and I think I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, but I can see stress levels with the client. They are at a 10. And I'll ask them, hey, how you feeling today? I'm a little stressed. Scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself? Oh, about a 6. First of all, 6 is not normal. That's not healthy. But that's where everybody
Yeah.
thinks that they're like, it's in the middle. Like I'm fine. Then when
Yeah.
we get them on the table, we realize they were at a 10. And now they are legitimately at a 6.
Right.
So with that, when you come in, we want to make sure that we are listening to you and what it is that you need, and allow us as the experts to work with you to figure out how we can best serve you.
Mm,
So
right.
I don't expect clients to book specific services without having the knowledge of what service is going to be the best for you, right? Like,
Right.
it doesn't make sense if you've never had cupping before and you have pain and you say, well, I'm going to schedule a cupping session for me. Well, maybe it's not cupping that you need. Maybe you do need a stretch. Maybe
Right.
you do need emotional release or reiki, or maybe you need to do some strength training. Allow us the opportunity to have that conversation so that we can get you what it is that you need. And that's why when most people come in, we say start at the assessment, because during
Mhm.
that assessment, it's more so for me to give you knowledge than anything else.
Yeah.
We're going to nerd out together and you're going to tell me the stuff that is going on with your body, and I'm going to sit and listen. How often have you had a practitioner sit with you for an hour and a half where you're talking about your body?
Never. Unless
That's
it's like a tailored specific thing, but when it
yeah.
comes to general doctors or a massage therapist, never.
Yeah. And that, I think, is the missing, that's like so important in the missing link for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I had a client who was experiencing sciatic pain. And during the assessment, I still hadn't even put my hands on her. She hadn't gotten on the table. We're having a conversation. We're doing some movement. And I kept asking questions. I was like, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. You didn't
Right.
have pain 2 weeks ago, but all of a sudden you have pain. Once I started to ask the right questions, what we found out was that her pain started immediately when she left her daughter that had just had a baby. It
Oh, wow.
started at the airport.
Mm.
And so when I said, okay, so it started at the airport, what was happening, like diving in, right? And that's when she's like, oh, I'm leaving my daughter. She just had a baby. I can't be with her. And I said, okay, stand up and sit down a few times right now. And she did. The pain went away. It's
Wow.
not magic. Her body was not
Wow.
happy at the fact that she was leaving her daughter. Energetically, it was not aligning. She was stressed out. And so,
Yeah.
without even going through the whole process, we've already come to the solution of the problem. And that happens with conversations. And I think those conversations are key to helping people.
It really ties into the holistic part of all of this because I look at health in that way too. After reading like certain books and just listening to certain professionals speak about how if we are not right in our minds, that can, follow through in our body, and literal pain will happen in your body if there's like the, example that you just gave with your client. So that's amazing.
Yeah. I think people are becoming more aware of that,
Mhm.
but it is still challenging for me as a practitioner to tell someone your pain is coming from your stress. I have to be very deliberate and very delicate
Mhm.
because I don't want you to leave and think, oh, well, Kendra said that the pain is all in my head. No, that's not what we're saying.
Right.
Physiologically, your body responds in specific ways and develops specific patterns if your body is in chronic stress. We
Right.
know this. This is documented. So if you're depressed or if you're stressed, the shoulders will start to come up, they'll roll inward, the head starts to come forward, and then you're like, why do I have back pain? Right? This is all pulled forward. The body is pulled forward. So, yeah, you can develop chronic back pain. or persistent back pain. If we work through the stressors and understand that there's a correlation, hey, then we can get in front of it. Wouldn't that be great? If you're like,
Exactly.
whoa, I'm starting to get stressed out at work. I know what that means, that my back is going to start hurting. So let me do some breathing techniques before it becomes a problem.
Like you said, it highlights that, you know, you don't come in and just get this fix and like it's all done forever.
Yeah.
You know, we're always going to have stressors in our life. So like you said, use this as a tool so people know when there is a stressful time, now you know what you need to do. And that's how you live a more balanced life.
Yeah.
So I want to rewind a little bit and I want
Yeah.
to go back to how did you start this journey in the movement of science?
The reason I got into this was a few different things that created like a beautiful, perfect storm.
Mhm.
My husband is former military, and his back would always hurt. And I just was frustrated the fact that I couldn't help him and that his
Mhm.
chiros couldn't help him, his doctors couldn't help him. And it was just something that he just felt like he kind of just had to live with. Um, and I was working for the military as a fitness specialist or fitness coordinator for a long time. And I was seeing the same patterns over and over again.
Mhm.
And I thought this doesn't make sense. We're not learning how to move our bodies. We're not learning how to take care of our bodies. And when you have a population that is pushing their bodies to the extreme without
Right.
having the recovery or the sources, tools, anything to fix it, that's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
So I got fed up with working for the government. And I said, well, let me figure out what I'm going to do with my life. I went to a place for a service,
No names will
and
be dropped.
no names. And this random place was like, oh, become a stretch therapist and we'll pay you. And I'm like, come on.
Right.
Who's paying people to stretch them? That's ridiculous. Like, right? I'm a personal trainer. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
You're like,
Well,
"Yeah, okay."
yeah, right? Like anything else, if you don't know something, it's so easy to roll your eyes and be like, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
So I went down the rabbit hole of, well, what is stretching? What is this? Why is this a new thing? And when I did that, I came across the Stretch to Win Institute in Arizona. And at that time, website looked janky. Their YouTube looked janky, but they had conversations with professional athletes. They
Mm.
had conversations with Donovan McNabb and Charles Barkley and an Olympic hockey team. I forgot what year. And I was like, and Google. There's the Seahawks. I don't know how I even found this, but the Seahawks were looking for somebody with this particular certification. And I was like, all right, they're legit. So I went out to Arizona and I got the first level of, it was called fascial stretch therapy at that point.
Mhm.
And I came home and I did my very first session with my husband. And he was just doing his squats. And as he was doing his squats, he was like, oh my God, like he's going deeper. Then he's bringing his legs in closer and he's going deeper and he's doing full squats, upright position, anatomically correct, right? For the first
Wow.
time since he was like 19.
Wow.
And that's when my eyes were like, oh, this is something powerful and amazing.
Yeah.
And then I said, wait a minute. Again, I'm old school. I've been in the industry for a little bit. You know what I mean? When I got in, we were like over the head, if beaten over the head as personal trainers. If somebody comes to you with pain, you refer out, period. You do not
Right.
touch anybody that has pain or work with anybody that has pain. Now it's a different talk show, right? Like people
Mhm.
are personal trainers and they're just doing it. So I said
Mhm.
to my husband, I was like, I think this is a game changer and I think I can really help people with this tool, but it doesn't change my scope of practice. And we
Right.
toyed with becoming a physical therapist, chiro, like we were going back and forth. And we decided I'm going to become a massage therapist. The great thing about working with Lisa is she has a very strong massage therapy background and she worked in a spa. So she's great at, the relaxation piece and
Mhm.
setting a great space to relax and unwind and decompress. Um, I'm a little bit more on the clinical side. So,
Mhm.
yes, I want you to relax, obviously, but I'm not completely setting up that space. And she's
Right.
phenomenal with, like, let's work through this. Oh, this is uncomfortable. Let me make you feel nice,
Yeah.
warm, and fuzzy all over again. And then let's do some work that's going to make you feel a little uncomfortable. And we'll do the nice, fuzzy stuff again. Um, so she's really, really good at that.
Mhm.
And so that's why when people come in, if they're dealing with like really significant issues, like I have had back surgery and or um, like I had cancer as a kid and one side of my body is shorter than the other. I'm working with them because we're going to be at this for the long haul and we're pulling from a whole bunch of different places and we need to do the strength training side of it. I'm super stressed out. I'm like, go see Lisa. Go see
Yes.
Lisa. She's
Stress, go see Lisa.
Go see Lisa. Like she's going to be the best at that. She's
Yeah.
phenomenal. She's so caring.
Yeah.
And not to say that I'm not. We're just very different, and we complement each other really well, which is great.
I think that's a good point to point out is that what makes you guys different is that you're different people. And
Yeah,
that's truly what it is. And everyone, you could be performing the same services, you can be trained by the same company, brand, whatever, but you're going to execute it differently based off of who you are.
and then I've done so many other trainings since because I realized that I can't do anything with the muscle if I don't work the fascia.
Right.
And you're not going to just get out of pain if we don't do the stretching or the strengthening rather.
Mhm.
And now I'm seeing the third piece, which is the emotional stuff, the stress, the somatic movement type stuff. All of those things, those three elements, I think are key to get somebody to really be able to perform well. And I promise you, in a few years, there's probably going to be a fourth thing that I'm like, how did I miss this? Right. But
Right.
that's where I am right now. It started with let me help my husband and other active duty service members get them right now to let's expand and help everybody in the community and really empower people to have the information so that they can help themselves. And that is what separates us, I think, a lot from other businesses is because I don't care if you get on my table. I want to make sure that you have the information that you can help yourself because somebody else is going to come in.
Exactly. And I think, at least in my life now, what I'm realizing, what is key to me is information. So if
Yes.
people can get the right information, the correct information from you, they will
Yeah.
always be loyal to you, whether they come and see you personally or they'll send people your way,
Yeah.
or they'll just remember you because they're
Yeah.
like, wow, she really changed my way of thinking. She really opened my mind, and just that information can go such a long way.
Yeah.
But I think that's amazing that your husband was your guinea pig, basically.
Yeah,
So
he
shout
really
out to
was.
him.
Yeah. He just trusted. He trusted me from the very beginning.
And so you mentioned is it fascial or fascal? How do you pronounce that
Okay.
word?
So the word is fascia. So you may hear it as fascia, connective tissue, soft tissue. So that tissue is the connective tissue in our body that gives our body structure, shape. It has so many functions. It helps with understanding where you are in space. It has a neurological component. So that gut feeling that you have when you meet somebody and you're like, I don't like you, or like, oh my
Mhm.
God, I really like you. And then you have to figure out why you like the person, why you don't like the person. That's all in your connective tissue. A lot of people will hear it when you hear like the plantar fascia, the IT band, which is fascia, but there's so many different kinds of fascia in the body.
Gotcha. So it's essentially just, you said it's connective tissue.
Yeah, so you'll hear it as connective tissue, soft tissue, or fascia. So,
Gotcha.
another way to explain this for those that are not vegetarians, if
Mhm.
you, it actually really any meat, but when you take the skin off of the chicken
Mhm.
and there's that slimy stuff, that's superficial fascia. When
Mm.
you go in and you can like peel parts of the meat
Right.
and it's connected in like little bundles, that's
Yeah,
also fascia.
like fiber kind of, like it's like,
Yeah.
ah, okay.
So it looks kind of like a spider web.
Right.
Um, and the cool thing about this is something called tensegrity. All right, so here we go. Here's our model.
Special effects. I love it.
Oh man, Hollywood is calling.
It
Okay,
is.
so one of the things about the fascia is that it, like I said, gives our body structure. So we've been taught that our bones is what is holding up our body. That's
Mhm.
not factually correct.
Mm.
The bones and the muscles are there to provide the movement, to provide some support, but the fascia is what holds everything together. That fascia is what connects the muscle to the bone and keeps everything from falling apart. So if I took the muscles out, if I took the bones out, your body would still be a form, a human form. Um, if you take the fascia out or off, then the body will completely fall apart. The other piece is something called tensegrity. So tensegrity is the tension that the body is under to keep it up, but also it can change how the body moves. So this is just a
Mm.
kid's toy. This isn't an anatomical model, but it works. So if I move one thing, so I'm moving the tissue at the bottom, you can see how the top changes.
Right.
This is what happens to our body. So when one thing hurts, that may not be the problem. It could be somewhere else completely what you would perceive to be unrelated, right? If I just
Mhm.
move this, what's happening to this piece up here, right? I'm not touching it, but it is changing what's happening. This
Right.
tension in our body is really important. So if there is something that's going on here, it affects this, right?
Right.
You may not feel it here. You'll feel it over here. And then you go try to manipulate this, and well, look what other problems you're causing. We hear everything is connected, but I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't understand what that meant until 3, 4 years ago, right? Through this idea of tensegrity, through this idea of the fascial lines that everything is connected. So if you have an issue with your shoulder, well, where's it coming from? There was no
Mhm.
injury here.
Mhm.
There's no anatomical disfiguration. There's nothing that will come up on an MRI or an X-ray. So this is fine.
Right.
What the problem is coming from the other hip. But if you go to your physical therapist, your doctor, your chiro, whatever, they may only focus on the place that you have a problem. and not
Exactly.
look at the rest of the body. So if you are perimenopause, menopause, balancing out those hormones with medication, you still need to consider that some of these hormones are in the body, in the tissue.
Yes.
And so that needs to be addressed as well. So the fascia is like the tissue is just amazing. It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing because everything can come back to this specific organ that
Yeah.
nobody really knows about.
Exactly. I learned it from you. Like I'd never heard of that term before.
Yeah.
Um, and to relate to, medications and stuff, that is where, I'm not a doctor, but being a hairstylist, I get a lot of women who may have hair loss issues or something like that. And that's when I go down the list of questions and I'm like, okay, well, are you on any type of meds? How were your stress levels over the past year?
Yeah.
Did you lose a lot of weight or have you had a lot of weight change? Because that is a huge one that people don't realize. I have one
Mhm.
client, she lost a ton of weight really quickly and she had a lot of hair loss. And she just was like, she was so afraid. I was like, this is normal. Your body's shedding everything basically.
Interesting too, because I know that when we are actively trying to lose weight, and I don't like to really use the term lose weight. I like to say release it because
I like
when
that.
you lose something, you are trying to get it back because it wasn't purposeful.
Mm,
Thanking your body for the weight that was on your body for a reason, right? We don't want to think of it that way. It's there to protect us from something.
yeah.
Um, the challenge with that is also when we release weight rapidly, our body is now in a state of holy shit, what's going on? And
Right.
so, things like our hair falling out because the body is like, I am sick.
Yeah.
Something is wrong. I have to, like you said, release. Maybe I'm not getting enough nutrition or what have you. So just being mindful, I like to put that out there for people is when you are trying to release weight, making sure that the mindset is right, that you're releasing, you're not losing, um,
Mhm.
and doing it in a very balanced and healthy way because things like your hair will fall out, your bones may get weak because you're not getting enough nutrients. So those are all of the things that we need to consider. Um, like you said, the medications too. So we offer a number of different services here. The primary service that we offer is stretch and body work. Book a stretch and body work, and then if you want to come in and something specific, we can do that.
Mhm.
But we don't expect the client to, like I said, have the information that they need to best help them. If you are doing a sweetest massage, but we notice something and you're okay with us addressing it at that time, then let's address it at that time.
Mhm.
Same thing if you are doing a myofascial decompression or cupping, but we may need to do a different type of technique. We want to be able to have that. So we do the stretch, traditional massage. We offer IASTM, integrated assisted soft tissue manipulation, which is like gua sha or just rubbing a tool on the tissue.
Gotcha.
Myofascial decompression, which is similar to cupping. And we have infrared therapy, which helps with cellular regeneration and other amazing benefits. So it makes your skin look fantastic and youthful. We also have air compression therapy. And air compression therapy is so good. I love doing that at the end of the week when it's been a tough week and my legs are super achy.
Mhm.
Um, it essentially creates compression along the tissue and then releases in the opposite direction systematically. So it doesn't just compress and release. Like those are cheaper models. That's not what you want. It's not going to give you the benefit. It pushes the fluid towards the heart and then releases so the fluid can get rush back into the tissue. So it's great for
Mm.
recovery. It's great for, like I said, just aches and pains. Um, I had one person. say it's breath work for your body. I was like, oh my God,
Okay.
that
Quote that.
sounds, yeah. I was like, let me write that down. That's
Right.
great marketing. Um,
I love
so
it.
we offer those things. So you can come in for a stretch and body work session and get the other services as an add-on as well.
Release therapy, the emotional release sessions. Could
Hmm.
you tell us a little bit about that?
I have to take a big deep breath. So when I talk about emotional release sessions, it's coming from a different space completely. This work has been my most profound work, hands
Mm.
down. Um, I have had clients that have been in persistent pain, and once we do the emotional release work, that's when they've been able to kind of overcome the challenge. Um,
Mm.
or if they are working through some mental blocks, emotional blocks, um, this is great for them. I haven't had the opportunity to film a session with emotional release because they are incredibly private sessions.
Right.
Um, so, what happens during these sessions? The client is invited in. I will ask them a little bit about if it's somebody just off the street, we're gonna ask some questions to get to know them. Normally, I open the emotional release door to clients that I've been working with for a while, because I know that they're gonna trust me, because
Right.
there's a lot of trust involved in this. And I invite them onto the table. We do some breathing together. I will place some crystals. Um, we will open up the chakras and see where the blockages are. And then I just tune in to something magical. My family is from West Africa, from Cape Verde, small
Mhm.
country in the middle of nowhere that nobody knows about.
Yeah, I
And
have
we've
never heard
been,
that.
yeah, nobody has ever have. And we've been in Massachusetts. So there's something that I tap into that I can't explain. It's ancestral. So
Mhm.
I sit, I listen, and then I am guided to what the person needs. So if I'm being pulled to do chest work, so pec work, pec minor work, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Right?
Right.
Or something will be left hand. Okay, so I'm doing stuff on the left hand. Um, and then sometimes we will. So there's like two different, I don't know, houses or approaches or what is it, but there's this spiritual ancestral stuff. And
Mhm.
then in my head, I guess I have to justify it with the science stuff.
Right.
Um, because what we can do is to um, very deliberately get you into a sympathetic nervous system. So, kind of triggering you so that we can finish a event or an experience that was unfinished. So there's a
Mm.
couple of different things, right? And this is so hard for me to explain because I have to use the science and then I have to use the stuff that I haven't learned how to articulate it yet.
Yes. Especially when it comes the spiritual realm, it's very
Yeah.
hard to explain the intuitive stuff because you don't
Yes.
intuition means you just know. You don't know
Yeah.
why. You just know.
So the science, though, is what has a tendency of happening if we have had small traumas, multiple small traumas, or a big trauma that has been unfinished, the body can get locked in that state.
Mhm.
And you can see it in people's posture. I see it a lot with active duty service members. I can see the startle response, maybe something blowing up behind me that has scared me. Now my head is coming forward, and now I'm in this position, in this posture for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a child that has been yelled at a lot is in this posture, and they're stuck here for the rest of their life. We don't talk about those things. Keep moving. But I haven't been able to shake it out. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't been able to process this. Immediately once it happened, you told me to stop crying. So that gets locked into the body. The body hasn't been able to discharge. It hasn't been able to finish the process. And so if it hasn't been able to finish the process, now you're carrying that. You
Mm-hmm.
have to get that out of your system.
I was gonna say, I love how you are able to mix the science with spirituality, the things that are unknown, unseen, because it's like it all works together.
A book called Why Woo Woo Works. It's
Why
either
woo woo
woo woo
works.
or woo hoo.
Okay, I'm gonna write this
Like
down.
woohoo or like woo woo. So that book goes through the research of why these things work, right? We think crystals, oh, that's silly, that's ridiculous. We use crystals to power equipment and electronics,
Yeah,
but we don't think that they can do anything for our bodies.
yeah, it's witchcraft, when you connect it to us.
Again, coming from a family of African descent, the women in my family have been incredibly powerful spiritually.
Mm,
They have told me stories where I'm like, I can't even believe this. And you've experienced this and you're saying it so nonchalant. So I have had a different experience than most people where I was exposed to this stuff from back in the day.
right.
The challenge is that with colonialism, we have been disempowered in a community where your talents, your skills, your connection to the earth have been removed. That has been very, very deliberate. That is
Mm,
not accidental. And so now you have populations of people like me that are like, why can I do these things? And where can I learn more?
yeah,
Where can you go? Right? Natives, indigenous people to the United States, tied here, have all of these skills that, again, were removed from their communities and trying to figure out, well, where are the answers?
and they're still trying to protect their sacred, land and water systems and all of
Yeah.
that stuff.
And it's really hard to pass these things down from generation to generation because you can't talk about it.
Right.
This is how it is. We don't even pass on the basics. My
Yeah.
mom, and here's the biggest piece. Not only do we not pass on the basics, when we do, it's met with what kind of stupid practice is that? My mom did cupping on a friend of mine in what, like 2012, 2013. And I
Mhm.
was like, what are you doing? And she was so like, this is just how we healed the body. We didn't have doctors. We did this. We did this.
Yeah.
And she put a piece of tissue in a cup, lit it on fire, dumped it on my cousin, on my friend. Took it out, rinse and repeat. And we were astonished.
Wow.
That is the type of healing that we have access to. But when I saw it, I poo pooed on it because cupping
Yeah.
didn't really become that mainstream yet. I didn't know of it. I was feeling terrible once. It was like a stomach thing. And my mom was like, make bay leaf tea. Make bay leaf tea. Mom, I'm not making no bay leaf tea. Kendra, make bay leaf tea. It'll make you feel better. Mom, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Right? You see the New England coming out. I'm not doing that. And I think the other really important thing to note is people in the diaspora have far more in common. You know, the family gatherings that are 20 people deep on like a Tuesday in the middle of winter, right? Like those are the types of experiences that we have. Once you have sat in and become more American, like the culture of the United States is just, it's so independent that you don't even have families anymore.
Yeah. Or like to your point you were saying, you may be so disconnected from your family because of like family generational trauma and, everything that your family had to go through here in the US that like you guys are not connected to each other anymore. We all understand that we're busy, but we've almost made it such an excuse to be like, well, you have to make something a priority. You have to make your friends and family a priority.
I think maybe it's a muscle that we need to rework.
To wrap it up,
Mhm.
what how do you manage to juggle between raising children, having a family, being a wife, and owning a business?
Um, Honestly, I don't think that I manage it. I think that we get fed the idea that you can have it all.
Mhm.
Um, Something has to take a back seat.
Yes.
And this is the first time in, I've been married for 16 years, I think, that has been my time. Like I said, my
Mhm.
husband was in the military, so there was no question about who was primary parent, primary caretaker, house manager, anything. That was me, 100%. The first 15 years. Anytime that anything happened, I was calling out of work, I was canceling, I was taking the kids to meeting, dentist appointments, whatever.
Mhm.
So he retired in June. And the deal kind of was when he retired that it was my time and that he will be home and he will be the primary. So
I love that.
since we've made that decision, my business has gone phew, because now I'm able to focus. I'm in
Mhm.
a very different place in my life, and I'm very, very fortunate that now what seems like, how does she manage it all? It's because I put in the time. I put in the time and I have stepped into that power.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I feel like you put it into words so well. Um, And what my therapist kind of told me about that was that you're not gonna always be 20% husband, 20% kids, 20% business,
Yes.
20% self. Like sometimes you're
Yes.
gonna be
Mm-hmm.
50% husband, 20% business, or like vice
Yeah.
versa, or like all in with it, you know what I mean? So she was like, just feel the space that you're in. Maybe it's a weekly change. Feel where you're at, live in that space, move on. Just like I think we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
before when you were at the salon. Part of the reason why I was attracted to like you and your business was because I do love your ambition and your thrive, and I can see it with your posts and social media. You're very engaging, and I could just tell like you're one of those entrepreneurs that don't play around. Like you don't sit and wait for people to come to you. You do everything
Mm-hmm.
that you feel like you can do to
Yeah.
control who comes to you. And I think you mentioning that sometimes you're usually on or you're off, I think that's okay because it takes a lot of energy to be that person for content, media, and your business. And
Mm-hmm.
you put your all into that the week that you have that energy. And then the next week, you're like, okay, I posted a lot last week. I have a lot of things lined up. So I can
Mm-hmm.
kind of relax a little bit on this end
Mm-hmm.
and maybe focus on cooking dinner more this week or something.
And that's how I have found the balance for me. And I'm working on being more okay with that. And
Yeah.
that the energy I wanted to touch on, when you say like the energy of I'm going to do it. And if you want to come with me on the journey, great. But if not, I'm not waiting. I really want people to understand that entrepreneurs have to give up something, or they are working through something or fighting something. It's not always just this person is so amazing and great and they show up on social media and they can just do it.
Mm.
No, there's something that they have to kind of give up.
So I had already been thinking of the podcast. I was already thinking about guests that I would have. And then you were on there. Like before you even made your next hair appointment, you were a person that popped up in my brain. And then I just kept following you. And then you came for an appointment. I was like, oh, this is perfect. I was like, maybe I should ask her during the appointment. And I did. And then you're like, bet, let's go. So this was last week. So I'm just
Yeah,
saying this to give people, to let them understand how like
yeah,
game you are. Like
yeah,
anything that's gonna make you progress and share with the world what you do, like
yeah.
you're for it. And I think that you do have something very special that will become even bigger. So I want you to just know that it is all very stressful, but please don't give up. Please don't, because I love it. Also, because now I'm a client as well, so I would love to keep coming back.
There's nothing in me that I've never been the give up type. And especially with this one.
Always a direction to go with it, because you set something up for yourself that's really good. And that's the
Yeah.
beauty in it. You don't have to worry about like, oh, am I going to get tired of taking clients and doing the same thing? And it's like, no, because you have this mind where there's always a potential to grow.
Mm. There's always so much to learn.
Mhm.
There's never going to be a day, which is a beautiful thing, but it's still kind of stressful at the same time, where you're going to know everything about the body.
Right.
So it's beautiful because there's constant learning, which I'm obsessed with.
Mhm.
Um, but then it's not something where it's like, I know everything about this thing. There's nothing more to learn. We just had a class on this, and this is very important. Winter is not the time to start something new. Winter is the time to restore and reflect and rest.
Mm.
When the weather starts to bubble and warm up and trees start to grow new leaves, that's when energetically you're like, okay.
Yes.
The clocks change and now you want to be outside longer. That's when things are supposed to happen, and you just have to honor where you are. But there is this delicate balance. And
Mhm.
this is what I'm
Mhm.
trying to figure out right now is what is the balance between being productive, letting my body rest, and also what is the difference between burning out or burnout and being lazy?
Mm.
And
It's
I
a fine
think
line.
it's very, very fine line. I'm like, God, my life is so boring. I need more excitement in my
Right.
life. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Mm-mm.
Stop putting this stuff into your life. Who on social media are you following? Right? I don't,
Mhm.
it surprises me when I hear someone talk about social media as if it's a bad thing, because I follow therapists, physical therapists, lots of business owners, lots of business coaches. Um, so when I'm on social media, it's like it rejuvenates me. And we have to be real with ourselves of what it is that we're consuming and bringing into our lives, because it is changing who you are energetically and spiritually and cellularly.
So
So
you're having that class. So that's great to know that you do have classes
yes.
periodically. And I actually
Mhm.
love this. So I'm going to have to get the details about that later. But for anyone who is trying to find you, where can they find you?
So, if anyone's trying to find us, we are on movementandscience.com, and we're on Instagram as well in Movement and Science. TikTok, you'll get more engagement from me if you're under, if you look Miss MS underscore Kendra. Um, and I put videos on there, it's been a while, for Canva or business coaching. If you have a small business, you'll get information there. And we do classes once a month, and
Mhm.
we're going to be doing either community outreach classes. So look out for those because we're going to be doing more in the community. That's one of the things that people say that they wish they had more of. So we're going to fill that need. So bring people together.
Let's stay connected. You can find me on Instagram at imbalancedwithcat or on my website, imbalancedpod.com. Give me a follow or a podcast review, and I'd love to share it on air. Thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.